itself, it shouldn't really change the airflow pattern if no fans are actually added. With the case still in air cooling mode, adding the 120mm Noctua fan from our standardized set to the optional rear bracket didn't change the average either. The fan is entirely focused on GPU exhaust, so it makes sense that it wouldn't strongly affect CPU temperatures. The Lian Li LANCool 215 predecessor scored a respectable 45 degrees average, but the 216 is in another class entirely. It's a big improvement for Lian Li. Here's the comparative chart. The LANCool 216 sets a new record on this chart, effectively tied with the all-time great Fractal Torrent. Phantex's $100 G360A, not shown here, is the most relevant competitor on the market. That's because of its $100 nearly identical MSRP and Lian Li's past strategy of targeting Phanteks P400A with the 215. But we'll cover the G360A in more detail in the future. Fractal's slightly more expensive Torrent Compact is similar in spirit and in performance, averaging 41 degrees in this test. During the same baseline torture test, the GPU averaged 55 degrees Celsius above ambient. Removing the front panel still had little effect, lowering the average to 54 degrees, but only on the edge of our margin for error. Lian Li used an extremely open mesh for the front panel in this case, and it has slightly denser hole spacing than the top. It provides little resistance to airflow overall. Switching to air cooling mode helped temperatures slightly, lowering the average to 52 degrees thanks to the change in position relative to the case fans. Adding the rear fan on top of that didn't really significantly change the average. The front intake fans force a strong positive pressure layout, so there's really not any rear intake for the rear fan to cut off. But it doesn't help either. Part of that is because the fins are oriented top to bottom. This is still true for a large percentage of video cards, so really whether this helps or not will depend on the GPU that you have. We don't see the benefit we might see on, say, an FE card for a 4090, which has a specific rear exhaust pattern. Actually, if you look at our Schlieren imaging of the 4090, you can see how it kicks a ton of air straight out the deco fins on the back of it in the I/O plate and in a straight line. That's where we'd expect to see this rear attached fan matter more, but here it serves no purpose. That'll be true for a lot of other cards with top to bottom fins as well, or cards that can just eat all of the air they're given anyway from the front fans, and part of that's just because if the rear fan isn't really pulling more air into that chamber, the only way to benefit from it would be as intake, and then you introduce other variables. In the comparative chart, the Torrent Compact and the LANCool 215 averaged within 1 degree of each other, at 51 and 52 degrees above ambient respectively. The 216 still has a respectable place on the chart, but it's not the complete chart topper that CPU thermals were. Using the 52 degree air cooling mode average instead, the 216 ties the 215. Balancing that with slightly worse CPU thermals, it does seem like air cooling mode is potentially the ideal configuration for air-cooled systems. Shocking. Average GPU temperature during the Firestrike Extreme test was 54 degrees over ambient, but within margin of error of the original torture test results. We use the results of this test as an indicator as to whether or not GPU exhaust affects CPU thermals. In this case, it doesn't. The 160mm intake fans move a ton of air, much like the Torrent, and there's just not much chance for hot air to linger in this case. In the same test, the 215 averaged 51 degrees, and the Torrent Compact averaged 50, for a near exact repeat of the GPU torture section results. With the 216 reconfigured to air cooling mode, it would probably tie these other two cases based on our previous results. The first of our two Blender test passes runs on the CPU, so this reduces the thermal load versus the previous ones. Its average temperature was 33 degrees above ambient here, maintaining the 216's position as one of the best CPU thermal performers. The Torrent Compact and the LANCool 215 were both warmer at 34 and 38 degrees respectively, a big swing for that second one, with only the original Compact again effectively tied with the 216. The second Blender test renders on the GPU, which averaged 24 degrees above ambient. Lower average temperatures in this test means smaller deltas between cases, so the Torrent Compact ties the 216, while the 215 is basically also the same, but technically ahead. For the standardized fan test, we left the motherboard in its stock water cooling mode position. Remember, this doesn't really have that big of an impact on things. We swapped the two 160mm intakes for our standard Noctua 140s, and the 140 exhaust fan we swapped for the standard Noctua 120. Lian Li's stock fans must be mounted on the outside of the fan rails on the case, but we chose to mount the 140s on the inside of the rails in order to give them better access to the full surface area of the front panel. Remember that this test is a viewer request. In this instance, it'll likely be worse than the stock fans because we're decreasing the size and the stock fans are really good. So that's one of the downsides of doing standardized fan testing. Average CPU temperature climbs to 42 degrees, a rare instance where the standardized fans perform worse than stock, albeit only slightly. That keeps the 216 at the top of the chart, next to other cases with extremely open front panel designs like the H5 Flow and the Pop Air RGB. The difference is that the 216 has the stock fans to take advantage of that front panel. So does the Torrent Compact actually, and that one averaged 41 degrees here. Average GPU temperature also climbed, this time up to 57 degrees, pushing the 216's performance from middling down to poor in this test. The Torrent Compact managed a 52 degree average, while the 216 is closer in performance to ultra budget cases like the P360A and the Air 1000 Lite. The lesson here is to keep the LANCool 216's stock fans installed. You paid for them anyway. On to noise. The 160mm stock intake fans are listed as 1600 RPM, which is actually really fast for their size, and fast means loud. We do all of our stock testing at 100% fan speed, and at max speed, we measured the LANCool 216's noise level to be 49.2 dBA. That's one of the loudest readings we've ever seen for a case, fittingly right behind the maxed out Torrent's 50.8 reading. In order to reduce the noise level to the 36 dBA threshold that we use for noise normalized testing, where we set all cases to the same noise level, we had to reduce fan speeds to 37% for an actual speed of 850 for the front fans anyway. There's clearly a point of diminishing returns with the 216's fan speeds, because that massive reduction resulted in a barely worse average of 43 degrees for the CPU temperature. That's our best result so far in this test, beating the Torrent Compact's 44 degree average, basically tied here, and the 215's 47 degree average. And that is in spite of both cases being exceptionally strong performers in this category. GPU temperature was even less affected with the new average of 56 degrees, but given that the original GPU average wasn't great, this puts the 216 in the middle of the chart. It's tied with the Torrent Compact, but the 215 pulls ahead with its giant, quiet 200mm fans at 53 degrees. Wrapping up then, it's a pretty interesting case. There's a lot of unique stuff that Lian Li has done, and it's not all completely pointless. The rear exhaust fan was not useful in our configuration, but you're adding a fan to the back of the case. There are configurations where it'll help. It's going to be specific though. So again, horizontal fins on a GPU, very likely it'll help. You can play around with intake too. That would probably provide more fresh air to the GPU, but you're going to affect other currents in the system. So it would take some testing, and there's a lot of variables if we wanted to test them all. And it mostly revolve around swapping video cards. Another feature we liked a lot was the top being removable, partially removable. So on the Fantex cases, they started doing these things where you can take the entire top panel off, which is awesome because getting your hands in there for an EPS 12 volt connector for the CPU is way easier when you can do that. On this case, you can't get the entire thing off. There's a back strip here that's riveted in, but this is a radiator tray, so it's a fan mount.
Well, aren't you a sturdy-looking one?
Here, so
Perhaps you can assist me with a thing or two. Not much help around here except for green apprentices, and they've other things to worry
EPS 12 volt. Plus, you can just permanently remove or leave in these cable routing guides up here that will show in some other footage. Some of the other cool features include the screw sorter that they ship with it.
What do we have here?
Fancy custom
you look as though you might need something to keep your hands warm, HM. I'll tell you what would help. A pair of nice warm gloves.
And there's also strong pricing
being the kind soul that I am, I'd be more than happy to provide you with a suitable
Compact, we don't like the way this one looks as much, subjectively speaking, as the
Recharging. Too far away. To get closer.
How are ya?
Ah, wonderful. The wolf meat should do nicely. Oh, don't worry, adventurer. I wouldn't forget my part of the bargain. Here, one of these should fit you.
I don't suppose you'd be willing to do a favor for me, lad. A stack of letters came through the pass today, but I don't have the time to send them along. They're all addressed to Talon Kenai. You can find him to the west down the road. He set up camp next to the frozen lake. What do you say? Do you?
While you were helping me out, this rune was given to me to pass on to you. Take some time to read it when you have a chance. I'm thinking it came from the hunter trainer Thorgus. Take a gander at it and go find him inside Anvilmar when you've a chance. I hope you're here to lend us a hand, adventurer. After the last Trog attack, we could use all the help we can get. I hear the buggers have been popping up all across the lands, and it seems Coldridge Valley is no exception. They've been spotted all over the hills to the southeast and near the frozen lake. And that's not all. Just a few nights ago, they attacked and overran our camp to the west. We're a bit short-handed. And we need strong arms to help drive the Trogs back.
range. Too far away. I need to get closer. I'm out of range. Too far away.
If the problems we've had here are indicative of what is happening elsewhere in our lands, by Magni's beard, we have some troubles ahead of us. I can only hope that the King and Senate are taking steps to deal with the threat the Trogs pose.
Keep your feet on the ground!
We drove the Trogs out of Gnome Regan, but then it all went so horribly wrong. Now our home is completely irradiated, and we gnomes have been scattered all over Dunmorrow. In my haste to get away from the radiation, I lost all my personal belongings and tools. It was the trolls that got me. They stole my chest, my box, and my bucket of bolts. They took them back to their camp southwest of Anvilmar. I'm no adventurer. Could you find my things and bring them here to me, please?
One thing you should always remember is that you've got to respect the world you're living in. The beasts that choose to fight alongside you. The shine of your weapon, the weight of your ammo, the bite of a bitter wind. All these things you need to know intimately. I'll do what I can to help you. But most of the work's up to you. Anytime you think you're ready, come back and talk to me. I'll train you when I can.
I'm out of range.
Here there.
Thank you. I've been waiting for these letters for quite some time. Unfortunately, these letters aren't all for me. This one is addressed to Grelin Whitebeard. He's not too far away if you'd like to deliver it to him. If I remember correctly, Grelin's camp is down the road to the southeast. No doubt he'll be eager to get his... Nothing like a day of boar hunting, eh? Though here in Coldwood Valley there are so many boars it almost takes the fun out of it. No need to get them charging. They're all angry and ready without any help. In fact, recently there have been so many boars in the area, it's become dangerous for me to do my daily hunting. Long story short, if you could help me kill some of the boars, I would appreciate it.
I need to get closer. Too far away. Still be charging. I need to get closer. Can't cast that yet.
Excellent, I can go back to my leisurely hunting now. Thank you, adventurer.
Can't carry anymore.
I was supposed to get this delicious scalding morn brew to Durnan Furcutter inside Anvilmar a while ago now, but I had to deliver one to Grelin here first. I'll never make it to Anvilmar before the brew runs cold. You look fast. Maybe you can make it. This cup will only stay hot for 5 more minutes, and Durnan didn't order chili morn brew, so get going. Anvilmar is to the northeast, a settlement dug into the mountain. Thanks, adventurer, and don't forget to bring me back my mug.
Ah, excellent. It's been a while since I received word from Ironforge.
My brother, Sinir, and I were sent to different parts of Dun Morogh to investigate the threat posed by the trolls. The Senate has its hands full with the Trogs, so they've no need for further annoyances. From what I've seen, the trolls aren't well situated here in Coldridge Valley, mostly the southern cave. I'd say that the army will not be necessary. A few strong arms should be more than enough. Perhaps you'd like to assist in this endeavor? I have the authority to offer compensation for your help.
Great.
I sell the finest cloth and leather garb this side of the valley. Ah, good. Now this will hit the spot. Allow me to take a small break while I enjoy this scalding morn brew. Now that hit the spot. Nothing like a piping hot, nay, scalding morn brew on a cold winter's day to warm your cackles of your soul. Here you go, adventurer. Be a pal and take this empty mug back to Nori for me, would you now?
Off with you.